Hey everyone, Dr. Frunke here with a really exciting knife consult for you. Life is good today, and I say that for a couple of reasons. Number one, I have a very unique knife in front of us. This is the Southern Grind Penguin, but I also say that because Southern Grind is owned and operated by Zac Brown. That is Zac Brown of the Zac Brown Band, and they have a song called Life is Good Today that I happen to enjoy. It's a great beach song. In any case, interesting story behind this knife being that it's made by a country musician. If you go back in my channel, I had some videos on the Southern Grind Spider Monkey in copper from Going Gear. I actually really liked that knife. My sort of impression of that knife is that it's a budget Sebenza. It's actually such quality, and the grind reminded me of that and everything. So it's interesting to me to see the next generation of Southern Grind knife. Now this takes it to the next level, being a ball bearing flipper with S90V steel. So super impressed to see them take that leap into the next type of knife. So let's go ahead and go over some overall specs on this guy. It's advertised as a 3.5-inch blade. I'll go ahead and bring out the ruler here. It does have 3.5 inches of actual cutting length. It's about 4 inches back to the handle. It's a little over 8 inches, maybe 8.25 inches overall length. The handle itself is right at about 4.5 inches. The grip area is right at about 4 inches. One of the most impressive dimensions of this knife is the handle thickness. So I'm going to go ahead and bring out our calipers here and show you guys that. Go ahead and set this to 0 there. And then my favorite part of this is the handle thickness, and it's coming in at 0.4375 inches, so 0.43 inches. That's a fairly narrow blade, and we'll get into that a little, or a fairly narrow handle, and that's one of the things I like about it. We'll talk about it in a minute. And it's 0.13 inches, or 130 thousandths thickness on the actual blade width right there. So I actually really like that. It is a slim knife, but it is a long blade, and so you're going to get a lot of use out of this. This was designed obviously to cut and to be used, and it's really cool for that reason. So let's go ahead and break this knife down anatomically. Up front we've got that 3.5-inch blade of S90V steel. S90V is an excellent stainless steel, very good edge holding, high corrosion resistance. It's a little bit hard to sharpen for the average user, but in my experience, if you just have some patience, you can sharpen it just fine. It's done in a very nice mirror stone wash. That's one of my favorite finishes on any blade. It's super functional, and they do it very well. Theirs reminds me of the Chris Reeve finish. It reminds me of the Hinderer finish. Just very quality. It's very smooth to the touch. It is a fingerprint magnet, but that's okay. It does glide through stuff very nicely. Speaking of gliding through things, it is a flat grind, but it's a tall blade, so it's very thin behind the edge, and it allows it to be a very nice slicer. This blade actually cuts amazingly well because of the thin stock, because of the way that it's ground. It's strong and it slices very well. The blade shape is super functional. It does have a harpoon swedge up top. It is just a regular drop point blade shape though, and I really enjoy that. Moving back, it runs on a unique system called the multi-track bearing system. It's upside down, so I'll show that to you here. MTBS, multi-track bearing system. I showed you that in the knife surgery video. If you're curious as to what that looks like, go ahead and check that video out. But it's a set of ball bearings fixed in a plastic washer. Similar, in fact, actually to the construction on the 0606 by ZT. Also a very smooth knife. But they have sort of a unique feel, those plastic washers with ball bearings. I don't think they'll ever get quite as smooth as, say, the stainless steel caged bearings. So that's an interesting design choice. They have a patent pending on this particular washer system. So props to them for attempting innovation and for seeking new designs and things like that. I do like it. It's a big pivot, and it's got this very unique design graphic on the front, that angry looking tactical penguin that's going on right there. I do like that logo a whole lot. I also like their Spider Monkey logo as well on that knife. I think that's a neat touch that they put right there. It's not really overdone, and it doesn't really look terrible, in my opinion. Now, design is another thing. Now, speaking of penguins, back here on the actual handle, it's got these tracks. I could really have done without those, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Back to the pivot, it is a flipper release system, a flipper deployment system right here, and it does work very well. This detent is actually quite strong, so it works well in a push button or a light switch format. It's not uncomfortable to deploy. There is a little bit of jimping going on right here, but it's not sharp. Again, actually that's very similar to that 0606. It's got that sort of natural looking, almost scaly looking jimping going on there on the spine. So interesting design choice. It's comfortable in the hand. It doesn't provide a ton of grip right there. My finger slides very easily, but it's a little bit of positive grip right there. Now in addition to the flipper deployment, you can deploy it, oh I'm sorry, I screwed that up. You can deploy it very easily with a spider flick. Sorry, you just got to get it at the right angle. I'm doing this for the camera. But it does fly out of the handle very, very nicely. One thing I've noticed, you have to stay away from the lock bar, which is pretty easy because it's a wide handle. You can easily stay away, but if your hand is on the lock bar, it does lock up the knife, and that's okay. That happens to a lot of knives. But again, with the wide handle, it's very easy to keep your hand away from it. A little bit harder to deploy it with the thumb. No, I'm not very good at it. You can do it. Of course, you can do a two-handed deployment as well if you really wanted to. The flipper tab itself is quite comfortable. It's all rounded off, and so there's no sharp spots. It's quite comfortable to deploy it all day. One little problem that I have, it's relatively minor. It's a rather prominent flipper tab right there. It's just a little bit big. It does increase the width of the knife, but because it's so smooth, it doesn't really mess up anything in your pocket. Everything kind of slides around it. I usually carry my knife by itself in the front right pocket, so I don't usually have a problem with larger flippers, but it's a little bit bigger maybe than it needed to be. But they did stylize it at least and hollow it out on the insides, just like the blade, so it does have that stylistic cue that I think is really nice. The blade doesn't come anywhere near the spine here, and so you're not at any danger of cutting yourself when you're moving around with it and using it quickly. Moving back to the handles, we've got a couple of slabs of really nicely done chamfered titanium. These are not milled out in any way on the inside, but it's still relatively lightweight. Speaking of which, I can go ahead and bring out the scale so we can go ahead and get an overall weight on this thing. So 0 ounces there. This is 4.52 ounces. That's really not bad at all. 4.52 ounces is a very carryable weight at 4.5 inches. So since 3.5 inches, excuse me. So why don't we go ahead and bring out a couple of other knives for a size comparison. Right here, let's bring out a couple of very common knives. I've got a Spyderco Maddox 2. Very, very similar overall profile. Here's the Paramilitary 2, the PM2, just a hair bigger, especially in the handle dimensions right there. Got another new Spyderco right here. This is the Shaman. Now, all of these knives that I'm bringing out are probably pretty fair competitors, especially these in the unique steels. You know, the Penguin comes in an S90V, which is a nice steel overall, but it's coming in at a bit of an expensive price. This comes in at $380 to $390, depending on where you're picking it up. So here we've got a couple of ZTs. We've got the 0392, very similar, just a hair smaller than the 0392. Smaller, of course, than the 0606, which is a 4-inch blade right there. Got a couple of other knives I can compare this with. How about an arc form slim foot, another sort of unique knife out there that's not as well reviewed. Here's a Hinderer MP1, similar blade shape, a little bit different there. Another similar looking knife. We've got the Custom Knife Factory Gavco spinner collaboration right there. And just for shits and giggles, how about we bring out the Kaiser Critical as our last size comparison. So, a nice size knife, not small by any means, but not overly huge. How does it carry? Actually quite nicely. The clip is super, super nice. The one failure here is that it sits right on top of the lock bar cutout, so your pants do bunch up in there. So that's a bit of a problem, but the spring on the clip is enough that it actually just bounces right out, so it's sort of a balance there. But the slimness in the hand, the width in the hand makes it a very secure grip. It's very comfortable. The blade slices beautifully, and it's a nice quality thing. It's just nice to see them evolve into a super high quality piece like this. I'm not totally sure that I would pay $390 to buy this, though. That's a lot of money, and there are a lot of good knives at that price point. So I'm going to leave that up to you to decide. Tell me what you think of this knife down in the comments. Go ahead and click like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Head over to Instagram and follow me at Dr. Frunky. Go check out Southern Grind and their work and the Zach Brown Band. So thanks for watching, guys. And as always, this is Dr. Frunky saying take care.